Welcome to That 30 Show, a podcast where we talk about the good, the bad, and the surprising parts of our 30s. I'm G, and I'm almost 30. My 20s are filled with milestone moments from graduating university to starting a career and moving out for the first time. I'm mostly excited about what this next decade will bring, and I've got an overwhelming feeling that the best years are yet to come.
And I'm David. I'm already in my mid-30s. I used to have no back pain or trouble sleeping, but now I live off a healthy diet of self-help books and dream of being in bed by 10 p.m. every night. Join us each week as we try to figure out together what life in your 30s is all about.
Welcome back to That 30 Show.
Hey, welcome back. How's it going?
Welcome back. Good. Well, for those of you listening, last night was Daylight Saving Begins, and we lost an hour of time, which to me is kind of silly, but I guess we have to wait for the Americans to be on board with not having that before we can change it. But how was it losing the hour of sleep? Did it affect you at all or not really?
I know it's really annoying, and every year it becomes a whole debate. Like every year you get the articles around this time of year. It's like, why are we still doing this? We're not farmers anymore. We don't need to cultivate the crops. Speaking of the US though, they actually do want to get it passed, but they just can't get their act together. Like they've tried several times to have it passed like legislatively, but like keeps getting struck down by either the House or the Senate. So like there's some like political will, but it's just not happening. For me, it doesn't actually affect me too much because, as I mentioned one too many times on our morning routines podcast, I don't really use alarm clocks, right? So like, I just wake up, and I guess today when I woke up at 9 something, I was like, it's okay, David. It's really only just 8 something. This world is just kind of weird like that. And I was thinking about that right now. It's like, oh, we're recording. It's 3:45, and then I keep saying, no, it's actually technically 2:45.
Right.
But then at some point, I guess I stopped thinking that way. So it doesn't affect me too much, but I do know, everyone says like, car crashes go up during this week every year and it's really bad for your health, but I'm okay. Are you affected? Well,
it was funny because last night I went out to a friend's birthday and we went to like a DJ event and we were there pretty late. It was pretty interesting because we were watching the clock. So it was like 1:59 and then all of a sudden it went to 3 a.m. And we're like, oh my gosh, we're still out at 3 a.m. And long story short, we just got home really late and I ended up sleeping really late. But I also had that thought in my head. I was like, oh, it's only like 3 a.m. It's only 4 a.m. It's not actually, I went to bed at 5 a.m. last night. So feeling a little bit tired this morning.
So 2 weeks ago when we talked about your morning routines, your weekend routines, this is it in full colors. You're like sleeping when you usually wake up.
This is not normal. I don't remember the last time I slept at 5 a.m. I think this is like once every few years, I want to say. But, it's a friend's birthday. We're all turning 30 this year. So
it's going to be a crazy year for you and your friends who are all the same age, like the big 30.
Yeah, lots of crazy things happening this year. How was the rest of your weekend?
So yesterday I went to the gym to do weightlifting workout for the first time in my life by myself.
Ooh.
Yeah. I know it sounds like kind of lame because people are like, bro, like, do you even lift? What do you mean it's your first time? Yeah, it's my first time. Okay. Get over it. Get whatever. I'm a late bloomer. Okay. I'm a late bloomer. So that was pretty interesting, but, I could go on and on there, but long story short, the squat rack was like freaking crowded, like lineups. I couldn't. And I was too shy, so like I didn't get a chance. At one point I was about to go up because the person finished, and then someone else walked up, and then they're like, "Oh, I already like called dips like after these folks," and I'm like, "Ah, shit, I didn't know the etiquette."
Okay, that was total BS. You can't just call it. Whoever gets there first, okay?
Really? No, he said like, "Oh, like I already like communicated with these guys that I'm gonna go after them." Oh. Is that not a thing? Did I get bullied? He was like he was a very, jacked, buff dude. And I was just like, okay, yeah, yes, sir, you do your thing. I don't even know how to use a squat rack. So you go ahead.
That's so funny. Well, one of the good things about going early in the morning is that there is less people. So you can kind of take your time and get to know the equipment.
Okay, so other than your super late night, G, anything else noteworthy happened this weekend so far?
Yeah, I was thinking about what I had planned to do this weekend. So your parents don't live, with you in Canada, but I
Whoa, way to give away my location, G. Jeez. Now you're
gave
gonna
away
come.
gave away the country. I'm sorry. But every weekend, I actually go home. Like I plan my schedule so that I can have a big chunk of time where I can go back to my parents' house and like visit my mom. So we end up, often going out and doing something, or we're just staying at home and relaxing. I was thinking about my weekend on Thursday and I was getting super stressed out because I had plans that fell midday each day for me this weekend. And so I didn't have that chunk of time where I could go back home to visit my mom. So I was just getting super stressed out because I was like, okay, do I go back for just an hour? Because it's not a super far drive, but it's about half an hour each way. And I was like, okay, well, do I go back and visit her or do I not go back? And then I was trying to see if she wants to come downtown. And it just got like super stressful for me. So I was thinking about how like every weekend I have to go make time to go see her. But this weekend I didn't. And it felt super weird. Do your friends go visit their parents every weekend or is it like,
It is a topic. I've heard from a couple, for example, where the husband likes to visit his parents at least once every 2 weeks, let's say, but then the wife doesn't get along as well as the husband
oh,
with the in-laws, if you will, and so she's like always not that keen to go. It's like, oh, when I go, like I don't have anything to say anyway. It's just so awkward.
she makes
But
these excuses not to go every week?
yeah. So I think it really depends. Yeah, if you're like super, yeah, I don't know. If you're a good kid, I think once a week is pretty normal. I think if my mom lived here, I would visit her at least once a week. just I'm just thinking about that now. Okay, if my mom lived here, I think I would visit at least once every 2 weeks. But if they lived very close, if they live within like 10-minute drive or a 15-minute walk, then
Right.
then definitely. It's like just dropping by. Hey, I have an hour here. Just hey, just let's just hang out. Let's go for a walk. But to your point about like it being not that far of a drive, but to go just for 1 hour, I have like this unwritten rule where if I'm going really far, I want to make sure I'm spending at least twice the amount of time there compared to my commute time. So if I need to commute
That
one
makes sense.
hour, right? If I'm commuting 1 hour to another city nearby and I'm only being there for 1 hour, then I'm like, what? I'm on the road for 2 hours for something that I'm only spending 1 hour doing. That's not a good trade-off.
Even if it's to see your parents. Yeah, when I go visit my mom, I'll spend at least half a day there. And we often don't even do anything. Like I am sitting on the couch and like reading a book or like on my computer, but it's kind of like being in the presence of her. It's like special. So I tried just a weird weekend not being over there.
I think you get to a point though at this age where it does become more important for us to sometimes go out of our way or make deliberate efforts to keep our parents company in some shape or form, whether that's dropping by for a weekend or for a couple hours over the weekend and just spending time together doing your own thing, so they're not just home by themselves all the time. Even if your mom and dad are living together, it still gets lonely, I think, right? Like now that if they're empty nesters. So I think they appreciate that time, even if you're not like literally talking to them the entire visit.
Yeah, I definitely notice my mom just enjoys my company. Like I feel like her mood improves when I'm just like sitting on the couch. Actually, she tells me that. So she's like, I just like when you visit, even if we're not doing anything or going anywhere, we're just
Yeah.
kind of chatting and staying there. But I definitely realized that, yeah, like what you said, just being in the company of your parents, especially now, is really important. I kind of thought about that so I went on a trip earlier this year with my parents, and It's been a while since we've been on a family vacation. I mean, my brother wasn't there, so it wasn't a full family vacation, but I can't even remember the last time the four of us went on a vacation together. We're just so busy now. My dad lives in Toronto, so it's hard for us to kind of get together. But when I was on the trip, so this goes back to our 20s versus our 30s, I feel like in my 20s, it was a lot of like relying on my parents for money, for going places. Like they're figuring out the itinerary. We're just kind of like tagging along. And maybe this was sort of our early 20s because as we kind of got older, we kind of made that shift. But now everything, a lot of the times I'm treating my parents, I'm figuring out the itinerary, and it's nice because it's like it's our parents' time to relax and just enjoy a vacation rather than stressing about their kids. And then it also made me realize how expensive things used to be for them when they had to pay for like four people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such an important shift. I think about that quite a lot, especially in the past few years. You have friends whose parents, various parents, maybe health issues come up and they're going back home to take care of them. Or certainly I know, my parents, they have to go in for doctor's appointments a little bit more frequently. They're less, they're home alone by themselves a little bit more, maybe because they're less mobile or less adventurous. And especially during the pandemic, actually, that was a huge thing for me because my mom lives on her own. My parents aren't together.
Mm-hmm.
So during the pandemic, it was quite concerning because she was just at home by herself, locked up, well, voluntarily mostly, but because of the pandemic. And I was really concerned for her mental health because it's like literally not stepping foot outside her apartment for months on end, like maybe close to a year or maybe even over a year.
Yeah.
And she would have things delivered to her door because she was super paranoid about COVID. And that's fine. Everyone has their own comfort levels. I'm not judging that part. But the end result is that she's by herself within like a Hong Kong apartment. And she doesn't live in the biggest apartment, right? It's pretty standard, tiny Hong Kong apartment.
Yeah.
And then that's why, like, I got my act together and called her more than I usually would because I was like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine like anyone, much less someone who is older, maybe feels a little bit more vulnerable and fragile. She's always thinking about like, oh, what if I faint? What if I, suddenly fall and like hurt myself? Like, who will know? And I think that's a really real fear. Like I have that living by myself. I'm like, what if I faint? No one knows. Like, I'm so scared. Like one time I was feeling quite nauseous and I was about to faint and I was really scared, and I was by myself. And so I texted one of my best friends saying like, hey, I like might faint at some point. So like if I text you something like urgent, just come over. And I've already unlocked the door. Like I like staggered over to the front door to unlock it just in case I need to call 911 and they can open it. It's nuts. You've lived on your own. Do you have any similar sort of like fears or concerns about that health stuff?
I've definitely thought about that before. I kind of have like a mental plan of what I would do. Similar to you, I would go and unlock my door because I have a deadbolt on my door. So I'd have to undo that part. And then, yeah, I've thought about that before too. So my mom and I call each other really frequently. I would say at least once a day. So
okay, yeah. So you and we mentioned this before. You and your mom are BFFs. It's not fair. You put all of the rest of us to shame, or maybe just me. Maybe I'm the only one. And everyone's like, yeah, David, don't you call your parents every day?
No.
Do you know from among your friends like the frequency?
No, I'm probably more unique in that sense that my mom and I talk all the time. But yeah, I've thought about that before, and I've also thought about that for her. I mean, luckily my brother lives at home, so he can be around. But yeah, for sure. I think during COVID, that happened to a lot of people's parents and like grandparents because they're kind of trapped and you can't really go help them out because everyone was on lockdown and in quarantine. So
yeah, I think the bigger picture here that I want to say is that like there's a big shift, I think, around our age where you go from, as you said, you go from being the child to being the caretaker. And that could be emotionally going from a child to a caretaker for your parents. It could be financially. It could be like with physical, like, you know, driving them around to doctor's
Mm-hmm.
appointments. You know, they used to drive you around to your lessons and your doctor's appointments. They used to, you know, drive you to school, maybe pick
Yeah.
you up, and then now you're driving them around. I think that shift happens around our age, right? Around your early 30s. Would you say? Have you heard any stories from your parents, or sorry, your friends, or you as well about
Well,
this?
just in the past few years, and I can see this definitely continuing into my 30s, I think I will be prioritizing traveling with my parents a bit more. I mean, I feel like I spend a decent amount of time, especially with my mom. My dad's not here, so I spend a lot of time with my mom. But I think because they are not super great at English, and so when they travel, they often kind of struggle. Like if it's just the two of them, and I feel like they can't have as great of a time. Especially when we were younger, they were trying to take care of us too. So I can definitely see myself prioritizing trying to travel to places with them, taking them to go see places that they've always wanted to go to. I definitely see that shift happening.
Yeah, I think my mom loves to travel, and she travels a lot, but she always travels with a tour company, right? She
Oh,
can't go anywhere on her own. She can't plan her
right.
own thing. Like, you know, the language barrier, the fear if anything happens. It's even for our age, a lot of people aren't comfortable traveling on their own. I guess you could travel with friends, but this idea that everything is planned out for you certainly gives them a peace of mind. But
Yeah.
then my mom tells me anytime we get to travel together and I could potentially plan our own vacation, you get super excited because she's like, oh my God, I get to go to all these places that the tour company won't take me to. Because tour companies only take you to the most basic places, right? Like a lot of the Instagram things you see, or the really nice places, maybe places that are a little bit more inaccessible or not sort of, it's a bit off the beaten path. You're not going to be able to go to those places if you're part of a tour group company where everyone else are also grannies and grandpas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's actually happening later this year, where I am going to be traveling with just my mom and I.
Oh,
But we
wow.
haven't decided
Nice.
where. We haven't decided where. But I think
Oh,
that's another interesting topic, right? Like usually, if you're going with friends, you don't really have any restriction to where you go or what you do. You can rough it. You can be luxurious. You can do a hike. You can be at a resort. But with parents, you kind of want to do the easygoing route, right? The resorts or you literally just sit there and the whole day is spent just, I don't know, going to a spa, and maybe you'll do some sightseeing, but then like after 1 hour, they're going to be tired. They want to sit down for a break.
yeah, that's my mom for
Is
sure. That's why
that, yeah,
she loves the beach, right? So she likes lying on the beach.
yeah. So I guess your Miami trip was really chill. Eh? Do you want to share anything about your experience traveling with your parents and what you learned, or any takeaways, any advice you have for other folks who might want to plan a vacation? What works well, what might be too ambitious?
Yeah, I mean, my mom still to this day, every time I'm driving her around, we're gonna go get groceries or something. She's like, this is. I wish I was back in Miami, like driving down the street. She still talks about it to this day because she just enjoyed it so much. But I would say definitely if you're traveling with your parents, unless they are, super fit and they can walk a long distance, you definitely want to be planning something where you either have a car or you can get to places like it's a short walking distance. My parents have always wanted to do a Euro trip, and I really want to be able to go with them. But I feel like, yeah, in Europe, there's a lot of walking going
Yeah,
on.
Europe is so much walking, 20,000 steps a day minimum.
Yeah, and so many sites to see and getting from site to site. So I almost wonder if one of those, tour groups or like a cruise or something would be better for them. But I actually really enjoy, I know some people don't enjoy that aspect of like trying to plan everything out. It's a bit stressful, but I do like planning things out for my parents and seeing like the joy on their face. I feel like my parents like anything that I pick. So it
Yeah.
like anything that I choose for them to go on, they're like, this is the best thing ever. Just because,
Aw.
their kid is helping them do that. But yeah, I mean, our parents are not getting any younger. So best to prioritize that right now if that's something that means a lot to you.
You mentioned cruise. I think that's a really good option. I mean, cruise is a little bit more fun selfishly if you go with a big group of friends, right?
Yeah.
But parents love cruises. So the last time I traveled with my mom, it was for an Alaskan cruise. It was the first time I was on a cruise, and it was with her. And actually, I enjoyed it a lot more than I expected. I quite liked the cruise. I quite liked the limited food, but reflecting on that cruise, I have to admit something that I'm not too proud of. I remember at one point, or even for most of the trip, I remember thinking back, I had this attitude where I was like, well, I'm paying so much money, I want to get the most out of it, right? I'm going to do the things
Right.
I want to do. And then so I'm like looking at the itinerary, looking at the shows, looking at the different activities. And I'm just like, okay, I want to do this. I want to do this. And then it's like, oh, I don't care, mom, if you come with me, but like, I'm going to go do that because I want to make the most of the cruise trip. But then in hindsight, I was reflecting on some of her reactions or some of the moments, and I realized like she doesn't care about what we're doing as long as we're doing it together.
Oh, yeah.
And so I really regret that, to be honest, that I was a bit like selfish thinking like, how can I maximize my trip on this cruise? In hindsight, I wasn't, and I shouldn't have been there for myself. I should have been there for my mom. What does my mom want to do? She wants to go to the class which teaches you about like orthotics. Yeah, I'll go with you. I'll go with you, and we'll do that little test where like you put your feet in the sand or whatever, and they're gonna tell you if they should sell you some orthotics. Yeah, if that interests you, then I'll go with that with you. Oh, you want to go to the gym just so you can take some photos like you're using some gym equipment because it's kind of cool and funny, even though you're not actually working out. Yeah, I guess I'll go to the gym and not actually work out and just like be with you rather than just do my own intense workout and ignore you with my headphones in. So. Yeah. I have that reflection, and so putting out there on record, the next vacation I'll go on, gonna try and be unselfish, gonna try and think about the idea that it's not about me, it's not about what I want, it's not about what I want to do, it's what does my mom want to do, and how can I be there to maximize her experience? Because as you said, who know when's the next time they're gonna get to travel again, if at all. So I don't know.
That's some great self-awareness, David. It's definitely a different mentality when you're traveling with friends and with your parents, right? Like I feel like when you're traveling with your friends, you kind of have the same mentality and goals. Like you always kind of want to go do stuff. Or if you don't, at least you guys can compromise and you can go off and do your own thing while your friend goes off and does their own thing, right? But traveling with your parents, kind of have to cater to them sometimes. I did notice on my trip, one of the things that I probably wasn't super proud of was just getting kind of like impatient sometimes when my parents are maybe too slow, or my mom loves taking pictures. And so,
oh my God, my mom does too. Everything. Yeah. You just stop. It's a photo shoot every 10 minutes.
Yeah. And my dad is like so patient. So he'll take all of her photos or whatever. And I'm just walking ahead and I'm walking and walking and walking. I turn around and they're still standing at the same spot taking pictures. I'm like, guys, like let's get a move on. You have like 20 pictures of the same thing. And it's so funny because like we do that too, right? We love taking, I mean, a lot of us love taking pictures too, but I feel like our parents love it even more.
They do.
And they don't even, I mean, at least for my parents, they don't have like social media. They're not there to post it. They just want to keep like 50 photos of the same place. And I just got to recognize that sometimes you just have to slow down. Like your parents are getting older. They might be slower at some things. They might take a longer time doing stuff. And you kind of have to adapt.
Yeah. I can imagine in that moment, you're like, Mom, this is just the same palm tree. All the palm trees look the same. You don't need to take photos of 5 different palm trees, okay?
She had to take a photo at every palm tree.
Well, at least you guys both share the love for palm trees there.
Yeah.
Because I remember you love them. I actually know why my mom takes a lot of photos. She's actually told me why, and it's sort of bittersweet. It's kind of a nice sentiment, and maybe this is the case for other parents too. But for her, it's that she's thought about how in the future, when she's bedridden for one reason or another, and her memory's failing, then she'll just spend all day browsing her photos, reminding herself of the happy life that she had. Aww. And she's like, she doesn't want to forget these moments because she knows her memory is already really frail. And I think about that, I'm like, fuck.
Oh my gosh.
Can't say no to that.
Yeah. Do you have an idea of where you and your mom would like to go? Like, do you have a short list or?
So we wanted to go on a cruise, but we realized if it departs from Vancouver, it's either Alaska or I guess Hawaii.
Oh, I didn't even know we had a Hawaii cruise.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I don't think there is, but it's basically Alaska. Is sort of, I didn't even do any research, but so if anyone's listening and wants to give me some cruise ideas departing from Vancouver, BC, let me know. But then she's like, the other day she was telling me, oh, instead of doing a vacation from Vancouver, why don't you just, because I told her I'm planning to go to Hong Kong at some point this year anyway, because I haven't been back for so many years. So she's like, why don't we just go on vacation when you come back to Hong Kong and we'll go somewhere from Hong Kong. And then I realized, oh, that's a freaking brilliant idea because I would love to travel Southeast Asia. I've only been to a few countries there and it's so much cheaper to travel there.
Yeah.
And I'm already paying for the flight to go to Hong Kong. And then, so I don't know where to go. I actually was thinking like, maybe I should ask G for some Bali tips.
David and Mom take Bali.
Yeah, I was like, gee, can I just do your itinerary? And then you're like, well, do you and Mom want to go to this club?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure your mom would get some great photos if you guys decided to go to Bali.
It's funny actually. She loves to dance actually. So she would actually love to go to a club. She loves loud music and stuff.
That's so cute. Oh my gosh, your mom and I would get along great.
Yeah. She would love clubbing.
That's so funny. Yeah, I think the thing about cruises, there's not very many from Vancouver, first of all. And then it just gets so pricey because you got to like fly. So say if you're doing a European cruise, you got to like fly to Europe first and then start from there. And then, do the whole cruise, which in and of itself is pretty pricey, and then fly home. So it's a big time and money commitment.
Exactly. I was like, you have to fly somewhere to do a cruise. So, so we won't do that. So yeah, we'll probably go somewhere, maybe Thailand, maybe.
Oh, that's fun.
I don't know. I really want to go to Bali, but then I was thinking like a lot of the places I wouldn't go, they're kind of like honeymoon resort destinations. Yeah. It's like, maybe I'll like, can you imagine if I go to like this Bali resort and it's beautiful and I go back and in the future, my fiance, right? I'm like, I know the perfect place. I went there with my mom. And then can you imagine if I actually go there? Okay, let's just keep following this thread. Let's say I go to that resort and I'm like, oh my God, this is the same room that I slept in with my mom. and then it's like, okay, it's sexy time. And it's like, I don't really feel like it anymore, David.
That's so funny. Yeah. So, and then in Bali, I guess there's a lot of like coupley stuff. Or if you do like a trip with your friends, maybe. So
yeah. So I don't really know because that's like that's the perfect kind of vacation with my mom. I think is that laid back resort style honeymoon destination. It's beautiful. It's relaxing.
Is your mom? Does she like doing the backpack, like the walking around and exploring type of thing?
Oh, she loves that, but her legs aren't very good, so she can't really walk too long without resting. And she loves nature, so she likes being she and I are cut from the same cloth. We like beautiful scenery and nature and not as much the shopping stuff. Yeah, so we'll see where we end up. Yeah, traveling with parents. Let us know.
Yeah,
send an email.
Send an email with your best travel stories with your parents.
Yeah, what's our email, G?
Oh, it's that30showpod@gmail.com. In case I've never mentioned it before.
Yeah, that30show
that30showpod@gmail.com, and the 30 is numerical. So
okay, we got to work on this email because it's also double S, 30s show.
Yeah, we'll put the link in the description.
Yeah, we can put the link in the description. Yeah.
If anyone wants to send us a fun travel story that you've had with your parents.
With your parents, yeah. Well, I think that's a wrap for today. We'll reconvene next week to talk about other shenanigans. Anything you want to add about how you and your mom are best friends?
No, I think that'll take us down another rabbit hole. So best to save that for another day. Or I don't have much more to talk about, to be honest.
Okay. All right. Well, until next time.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Bye.
Bye.